Good morning. Happy Father's Day. Does Father's Day mean something to you? I'm curious. Does Father's Day mean something to you? Yeah. Happy Father's Day. I invite all of us to help people who are still arriving find a seat. Sometimes it helps us to move a little bit toward the middle of a row so there are easy access seats toward the end. We'll be kind and hospitable to each other. Yeah, for those who are longtime folks, moving forward sometimes frees up some of those back spaces too. Thank you. Well, good morning. I'm the Reverend Kevin Tarsa, privileged to serve this congregation. I invite all of us to untether ourselves for an hour, to silence our cell phones and other devices. Thanks for modeling that possibility. Although I have to say, if you're a person who likes to tweet or post, otherwise post your experiences and you're having a great time this morning and need to post that, that's okay too. That's okay too. We choose this day, as we do each Sunday, to place this small woven basket of black oak acorns on our altar so that we remember that we are intimately interwoven with this community and its history. We choose this day to remember that we live and work and meet on the ancestral lands of the indigenous people of this area, the Nisenan, who never yielded this land they knew as home. May our remembering keep our hearts open and our living aligned with our deepest values as we find our way through this day, through these days together. And now would be a great time to acknowledge and welcome anyone around you that you haven't yet met or greeted or otherwise connected with this morning. Let's remind ourselves right away that we are here together. I love that energy. And I always hate to stop it. I invite you to receive first the insight, the wisdom, the artistry of Leah Morris. We're going to join her singing the second time, but this time I invite you just to take it in. I choose this day.
Choose this day to breathe freedom and laughter. I choose this day to feel more than enough. Not yesterday and not any day after. I choose this day to feel one with love. I choose this day. I choose this day. I choose this day. I choose this day to be one with love. I choose this day to breathe freedom and laughter. I choose this day to feel more than enough. Not yesterday and not any day after. I choose this day to feel one with love. I choose this day. I choose this day. I choose this day. I choose this day to feel one with love. I choose this day. I choose this day. I choose this day. I choose this day to feel one with love. I choose this. I choose this day. I choose this. I choose this day. I choose this. I choose this day. I choose this day to feel one with love. I choose this. I choose this. I choose this. I choose this day to feel one with love.
Yeah. So let's join Leah. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit, and we'll sing along with the refrain when it comes up.
Choose this day to breathe freedom and laughter. I choose this day to feel more than enough. Not yesterday and not any day after. I choose this day to feel one with love. I choose this day. I choose this day. I choose this day. I choose this day to be one with love. I choose this day to breathe freedom and laughter. I choose this day to feel more than enough. Not yesterday and not any day after. I choose this day to feel one with love. I choose this day. I choose this day. I choose this day. I choose this day to feel one with love. I choose this day. I choose this day. I choose this day. I choose this day to feel one with love. I choose this. I choose this day. I choose this. I choose this day. I choose this. I choose this day. Choose this day to feel
One more time.
I choose this. I choose this. I choose this day to feel one with love.
Nicely done. The reading to accompany the lighting of our chalice this morning, the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist tradition, will be shared by Connie Wright.
Lighting of the Chalice by Carl Seberg. Let there be joy in our coming together this morning. Let there be joy in our coming together this morning. Let there be truth heard in the words we speak and the songs we sing. Let there be help and healing for our disharmony and despair. Let there be silence for the voice within us and beyond us. Let there be joy in our coming together.
I invite us to sing our very youngest ones who get to go to Kids Connection. I'm sorry the rest of us don't get to go to Kids Connection, but they do with this little light of mine.
Good morning. I'm Gail Johnson-Vaughan, and Cheryl and I are your worship associates for this morning as we move along the journey exploring the depths of delight. Depths of delight. I'll have to remember that phrase. It's juicy and provocative, as I hope you will find this service to be. As worship associates, we get the delightful opportunity to welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist community of the mountains, whether you're here in this room or joining us at Zoom. Welcoming, real welcoming, is more than a superficial act. It is, if taken to its depth, an exercise in finding delight in the moment. We are welcoming you. Some of you are new to us. I find delight in my curiosity to get to know you in the bits of your story that maybe you will share sometime. Some of you we know just enough to recognize. I find delight in the smile that comes when we make eye contact. Some of you we know better. We've shared a moment here or there. Some of you we know very well. For all of you, I find delight in the unfolding process of acquaintance to friendship. You are welcome here, not just because you're just like me or just like anyone else in this community, but because you are you in your unique self. In many ways, I suppose we're more like each other than different, being human beings. But the way we are different brings a richness that far outshines the sameness. We don't all have the same color eyes, skin, hair, if we have hair. We don't all have the same gender identities or sexual preferences. Some of us pray, some of us don't. We're scattered across the generations. We were raised in different regional, racial, and family cultures. We like different things, we do different things, yet we're all a bit curious about how this service will unfold. And guess what? We do not just welcome you here. We do not just welcome you here. We are delighted that you are here. So don't be shy about making eye contact with someone you don't know. Chances are they'll make eye contact back, and it'll be returned and perhaps open the door to a potential friendship. Welcome. I am so glad that we're here together.
Mary Oliver wrote, "Every day I see or hear something that more or less kills me with delight, that leaves me like a needle in the haystack of light. It was what I was born for," she goes on, "to instruct myself over and over in joy and acclamation." This month's theme of delight risks being understood as shallow or trite. The severe Protestant work ethic that yet permeates so much of our United States culture doesn't make much space for joy. But as William Blake put it, joy and woe are woven fine in our lives, and we are best off when we know this. As neuroscientists continue to discover those modern-day theologians for many, joy has a more important place in our emotional, our spiritual, our social health and wholeness than most people realize. So yes, even as our hearts break for the suffering in the world, we will consider delight as a worthy companion. In this week of Juneteenth, tomorrow, the celebration of emancipation from enslavement that rejoices in Black resilience and points to continued suffering and danger. This month of gay pride, when LGBTQ plus persons are blessed, even as they come under increasing attack. This day that holds a public teaching of the history that the local indigenous people and the descendants of white miners hold in their bodies. This morning, this Father's Day, when you are likely carrying your own heavy-heartedness and your own electric joy, we'll look to delight and to joy not as shallow or trite, but as realities much more deeply interfused, if we will allow them to be. So I invite us to sing the words mostly of William Blake, the song Every Night and Every Morn, because it's good to have a chance to move your bodies while you can. I invite us to rise in body or in spirit one more time and to sing along every night and every morn. Every night and every morn, some to misery are born. Every morn and every night, some are born to sweet delight. Joy and woe are woven fine, clothing for the soul divine. Under every grief and pine runs a joy with silken twine. Whether claimed, we know it's so. Life is graced with joy and woe, and when this we rightly know, safely through the world we go. Safely through the world we go. Beginning on his birthday several years ago, Ross Gay, a wonderful writer, committed to write for 1 year an essay a day about something delightful. He committed to write these little mini essays quickly and by hand, and so to practice thinking and writing about delight every day. He said he didn't quite make every day, but most of them. He began to notice themes: travel, his mother, racism, kindness, politics, pop music, books, dreams, public space, his garden. He wrote, "It didn't take me long to learn that the discipline or practice of writing these essays occasioned a kind of delight radar." Or maybe he said it was more like the development of a delight muscle, something that implies that the more you study delight, the more delight there is to study. He said a month or two into this project, delights were calling to me, "Write about me, write about me." He found his life to be more and more full of delight, imagine, especially when he shared his delights. His collection of some of those mini essays and his very public sharing of them became the Book of Delights. I commend it to you. A couple weeks ago in the Sunday service, we named some of those things that delight us, that bring us joy or a feeling of happiness. In the past, I've encouraged the practice of a daily gratitude journal. Maybe for you, the practice of a delight journal, a daily note or mini essay or poem or post-it or painting or photograph. Maybe that's the practice, the spiritual practice I would offer, that will grow your delight muscle in ways that will serve your spirit. That year-long focus on delight was ultimately a journey Ross Gay took in order to point himself toward joy, he realized. Delight was an on-ramp to joy, which was his deeper desire. And so came a more recent book of essays, titled Inciting Joy, in which he sets out to discover for himself both what incites joy, what causes joy, and what joy incites, how joy makes us act and feel. He writes of new writers coming up to him after the Book of Delights was published at book signings and at talks, tears escaping their eyes, saying that they didn't know they could write about joy, or in fact, that they had been told that they could not write about joy because it wasn't serious. In the book Inciting Joy, he writes of 14 of the many possible incitements to joy, everything from the garden, again, to skateboarding, to losing your phone, to dancing, to falling apart, to gratitude. But the very first incitement to joy that he names and writes about in his book is sorrow. Joy and woe are woven fine, clothing for the soul divine. Under every grief and pine runs a joy with silken twine. Ross tells of a college professor who challenged him. When all of this is going on, and Ross writes, he held up his hands as though to imply war, famine, people all over the world in cages or concentration camps, some of them children, disease, sorrow, immense and imperturbable, it only getting worse and worse and worse. Dude had big hands, Ross adds. When all of this is going on, why would you write about joy? Demanded the professor. When all of this is going on, with all of this that you locate between your hands, why focus on joy? Because all of this is going on, exactly. The implication of this professor's verbal challenge, Ross writes, is that joy doesn't have anything to do with everything in that guy's big hands, or even that joy is the opposite of what's in there. And Ross notes that that's probably a reasonable notion, given the way that we're taught to understand joy as coming from our acquisitions and our accomplishments, the things we buy or otherwise attain, things that are exciting, warm, snug, good, nice, cozy, welcome. He writes that he finds it both dangerous and terribly sad, however, that because we so often think of joy as meaning without pain or without sorrow, it suggests that someone might be able to live free of heartbreak or sorrow. As you likely know, Buddhist traditions teach that our expectation that it's possible to live free of heartbreak or sorrow is so often the source of our true suffering. The fact that we think that's even possible. But what if joy is not separate from pain, Ross asks? Not only fundamentally tangled up with each other, as he puts it, joy and woe woven fine, as William Blake put it. What if, Ross asks, what if joy is what emerges from how we care for each other through pain, suffering, and sorrow? What if joy, instead of a refuge or a relief from heartbreak, is what effloresces from us as we help each other carry our heartbreaks? It may be helpful to know that Ross Gay has a Black father and a white mother who met in Guam, the year of the Loving versus Virginia decision, which struck down laws banning interracial marriage. Helpful to know that Ross is writing from within the experience of a man of color in the United States in these times. There is, in fact, an idea, a reality being explored and written about more and more widely by Black scholars and journalists and authors, the idea of Black joy, a blend of resistance, resilience, and a reclamation of Black humanity. As a person named Helene put it, Black joy is having the space to be able to wear my soul on the outside. having the space to be able to wear my soul on the outside. Black joy born of necessity in this nation, Black joy permeating the spirituals, the blues, so much Black gospel music, and top 40 tunes too. Joy and woe threading through and thoroughly intertwined. And Ross Gay is careful to point out that he's not advocating for sorrow. Sorrow does not need an advocate, he says, at all. But what he is advocating, he writes, is that rather than quarantining ourselves or running from sorrow, rather than warring with sorrow, we lay down our swords and invite sorrow in. Make sorrow some tea from the lemon balm in the garden. Let sorrow wash up and take some of our clothes. Give sorrow our dad's slippers that we've hung on to for 15 years, just for this occasion. Drape our murdered buddy's scarf over sorrow's shoulders to warm them up a bit. And then he continues, as if this is our story too, each of our story. He writes of our refilling sorrow's tea and noticing as we do that sorrow is drinking from a mug given to us by someone we've hurt. We ask sorrow about themselves and we scooch closer to hear. We eventually decide to invite a small group of friends over for a potluck because we want sorrow to meet them. Sorrow says, maybe more than just your closest friends? That neighbor you only wave to? And that guy you really don't like? Oh, I hate that dude, you say. And sorrow says, better invite him too. So we open it up, Ross writes. Bring a dish and bring your sorrows. Some people forget to bring food, but at this potluck, no one forgets to bring their sorrows, which they introduce to each other. You can just barely hear it over how loud it is. I'd like you to meet my sorrow, we holler to each other, dipping the flatbread in the hummus. It's a beautiful, moving, humor-graced story to which I cannot do any justice without reading the entire thing. And I'm hoping this is giving you a little taste, at least, an idea of it, the feeling of it. The gathering becomes huge, and yet somehow there's always space for the people that are arriving, this growing number of guests who each start inviting their own people and their sorrows. The gathering becomes raucous and playful and graced with laughter and music. At one point, some kids bump into each other and start shoving and punching each other until an old woman and her sorrow get between them, and she yells, "Where the hell are your sorrows?" And they nod toward the Tarot table. And the old woman marches over there, grabs their sorrows by the elbows and shoves them toward the kids. And they seem to work it out, Ross writes. All of this and all of this. Have you met my sorrow? I cried quite a bit during sabbatical renewal. Now, you don't have to worry about me. It was good crying. I cried much more often and much more readily than usual, and in a helpful way, and for reasons I'm still learning to understand. I'm still getting to know my sorrow with the help of a skillful and kind therapist, among others. I've had a golden life in so many ways. So my sorrows come from some important losses, yes, but my sorrows are not rooted in terrible tragedies or severe pain or traumas. Some of my sorrow has to do with being a gay person in a world which did not accept or understand me, which I recognized very early in my life and haven't really understood completely. Some of my sorrow has to do with the unavoidable kinds of disappointments that come to all of us by virtue of having very human caregivers who had very human caregivers themselves, Some of my sorrow has to do with, I realize, so often and for so long having denied, abnegated my own wants, my own needs, my own desires, in an effort to stay connected, loved, attached which is what I really wanted, what I really want. For each one of us, for you, all of this going on, and all of this. Have you met my sorrow? It is right, it should be so. We were made for joy and woe. And when this we rightly know, safely through the world we go. Blake's original words, it is right, it should be so. We were made for joy and woe. And I have to tell you, I always balk a bit at the idea of being made for joy and woe. But I don't balk at all at the reality that joy and woe run through our lives, that we cannot live lives free from sorrow and pain and loss. That's what I hear in those words. So I've placed our familiar joys and sorrows ritual here, most of the way through the sermon, intentionally. You'll surely have the usual kinds of sorrows and joys you brought with you as your guests this morning. All welcome at this potluck. I add to this morning's invitation an invitation for anyone who's willing, and I hope everyone who's willing will. In a few moments, bring your most meaningful sorrow silently to this common bowl. The deep sorrow you may just recently have met, or the sorrow with whom you have long been intimate, but perhaps have never dared introduce to your friends or family or those who love you. Because I know it will help put some people at ease, don't worry, I will not be asking you to disclose anything in the service to anyone. So know that the internal piece of this ritual this morning is for you in whatever ways are helpful to you, and that you will choose how far inward toward meeting your sorrow you can go this morning, healthily, safely enough. And know that the physical ritual of picking up, holding, placing a stone in cool water, that is for all of us, even as we do it silently, as connected and interconnected human beings, as a community, even if only for this hour. Ceremonies like this, ceremonies in general, help us remember to remember, Robin Wall Kimmerer points out. Now, if you're participating in this service on Zoom, I invite and encourage you to find an object nearby. Maybe it's a stone, but it could be anything that somehow catches your eye and seems to have meaning. I invite you to be able to place it in front of you or to hold it in your hands or in your lap so that you can add it to this shared pool of meaning. And to prepare, because this is not something we can leap into, even silently, I invite us first to name and call out or type some of the things in the chat that you hold in your all this going on in the world, those larger things encompassed by the space between your hands. So let's call them out. What's going on in the world that you would name? And people can type into the chat. And Gail, would you see if anyone adds there? What would you name? Water issues. Persecution of trans families. I heard something else. I'm sorry? Perversion of democracy. Broken mental health system. Wildfires. Suffering in Ukraine. Racism. Declining health. Loneliness. Patriarchy, gender stuff. And not, yes. Too many shootings all over. Homophobia. Alcoholism. COVID still. The effects of trauma. Broken healthcare system.
Radiation tomorrow.
Starting radiation tomorrow. Dude and we have big hands. All this going on. The two larger candles each week, sometimes we name them, are lights for those things. All of this going on. How could we speak of joy when all of this is going on? So let's start by breathing, or in truth, attending to our breathing for a minute. So I invite you to let your breath do its thing. You don't have to control it or anything. Just let your breath do its thing and simply follow it all the way in and all the way out. Follow that breath all the way in and all the way out. All the way in and all the way out. From there, notice what you feel where your body meets the world. Might be the feeling of the fabric of your clothing on your skin. Maybe the way the chair feels underneath you that's supporting you. Maybe it's the movement of air on your face or on your arms. Sounds and light that meet your ears and eyes, even closed. The feeling of your feet on the floor. From there, notice what you feel inside your body, in your head, your face, your jaw, your neck, your chest, your torso, your belly, your gut, your legs, your feet. Notice in particular what you feel around your heart and your lungs. Is there warmth or coolness? Tingling or calm? Softness or hardness? Pain? Fullness or emptiness? And then there is your breath to follow, all the way in and all the way out. If you were invited to bring your sorrow to a potluck today, and to introduce your sorrow to the other guests and to their sorrows, what sorrow would you introduce? What do you know about the sorrow you would bring if that were the invitation? And if you were feeling safe enough to accept it? I invite those in the room to take a stone from the table here at the front of the room. People at home to find that object, to let it be in your heart and mind that sorrow. And without any words at all, to introduce your sorrow to this shared bowl, silently and in your heart. And though usually people come up one at a time in this ritual, very carefully and respectfully letting each person have their otherwise private moment at the bowl, Today, I would ask us to embody the reality that we are not isolated beings. I invite you to come up 2 or 3 or 4 at a time, all around the bowl. Still careful, care-filled, and respectful, but more like the bird feeder or the bird bath that is alive with wings and chirps and hunger and thirst. Take the time that you need, but not alone today. I invite everyone who's willing to take part. And it's going to take some logistical cooperation and creativity, and maybe even some compassionate jostling. And we can do it. We can figure it out at this silent and tender potluck. As a starting place and attempt to be helpful, let me suggest that coming down the center and back the outside might be one simple way to approach it. I invite you and your sorrow to come forward. to join in singing. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be whole. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be whole. May all be filled with loving kindness. May all be well. May all be filled with loving kindness. May all be well. May all be peaceful and at ease. May all be It is a beautiful bowl. A beautiful bowl of stones and sorrows and veins of joy running through. It's a beautiful bowl every Sunday, truly. What if joy is not separate from pain? What if joy and sorrow are not only fundamentally tangled up with each other? What if joy is what emerges from how we care for each other through pain, suffering, and sorrow? What if joy, instead of a refuge, a relief, a break from heartbreak? What if joy is what effloresces from us as we help each other carry our heartbreaks? Of course, you can anticipate my invitation to all of us, knowing that many of you are more skillful in this than I. My invitation is to find, to create, to look for, to build over time the real opportunities to introduce our sorrows, even on our way in on a Sunday morning, even in a committee meeting, to find the real opportunities to introduce our sorrows to our closest friends, to our beloved, to one another, to the people close enough, safe enough to meet our sorrows and to introduce theirs. It's the long-term and I think powerfully transforming work of a community such as this to create those kinds of spaces and enough genuine safety for such gatherings. safety which can only ever be built of genuine love and care and respect and compassion, can only be built ever of our genuine desire for the good and the wholeness of each other, of all, even the dude who is infuriating, and even ourselves. As Ross Gay considered his second question, what does joy incite? And so why does joy matter? He writes, I have a hunch that joy is an ember for, or a precursor to wild and unpredictable and transgressive and unboundaried solidarity. And that solidarity might incite further joy, which might incite further solidarity, and on and on. This is the ember of beloved community to which we Unitarian Universalists so often say we aspire. Ross's hunch, he continues, is that joy emerging from our common sorrow, which does not necessarily mean we have the same sorrows, but that we in common sorrow might draw us together. It might depolarize us and de-atomize us enough that we can consider what in common we love. And though attending to what we hate in common is too often all the rage, and it happens also to be very big business, he points out, noticing what we love in common and studying that might help us survive. And that's why, he writes, I think of joy, which gets us to love, as being a practice of survival. There are many incitements to joy and solidarity, but I think that Ross Gay's invitation to know our sorrow, our own sorrow, and to meet others' sorrows as one of the deepest and most direct paths is important for us to take to heart, if this is to be a community worthy of so much of our time, our resources, our energy, our attention, and our heart. I know it's very much a hidden backdoor entrance to joy, covered with brambles and who knows what else, and risks, a door not easily opened, but life teaches me somehow that it is indeed a way in, an important way in. In learning to listen for what I really want, what I desire for a change, the idea of this community being a place where you and I and everyone who risks entering this community can, as Helene described for Black Joy, wear our souls on the outside. A place where we are invited and kindly encouraged and supported in introducing our sorrows to one another and receiving other people's sorrows, meeting them, and where we discover joy in the process, emerging from how we care for each other and help each other carry our heartbreaks. If we can do that, we will begin to change our world for very much the better. Starting close in, yes, but we wouldn't be able to contain that inside these walls, or any walls, or inside this community, no matter how many members UUCM has. That's the vision that inspires me deeply, novice that I may be. A vision that inspires me deeply, even and especially with all of this going on in the world. May each of us be so. May we together be so. Amen, I say, and blessed be.
our community partner this month is Care Crisis Nursery. And it's a perfect example of a homegrown nonprofit that aligns with our values and was designed to meet the needs in our local community. For those of you who haven't been there, it's a homey, comfortable house in a residential neighborhood. There's a nice yard for outside play and lots of cozy spots inside with toys, blankets, pillows, books, stuffed animals, and really everything that a young child could need to feel comfortable and safe. The warm, welcoming staff provide short-term childcare for families in crisis and supervise court-ordered visits of parents seeking reunification with their children. 25% of our offering will go to Care Crisis Nursery. If you'd like them to receive 100%, place it in the white envelope in the basket. Here are some other ways to give.
Your generosity remains essential to our ability to sustain the work of our community. There are several ways to contribute. You may text an amount to 833-579-0483, give via our website at uugrassvalley.org, via PayPal at paypal.me/UUCM, or mail to UUCM 246 South Church Street, Grass Valley, California, 95945. Thank you.
Thank you for giving with generosity and compassion. We dedicate these gifts to helping create a world in which all families have what they need and all children can be safe and happy.
Yes, may that be so. Toby had chosen to play that music before, arriving this morning. I told him that was the perfect song. For those who don't know, the words are, when our heart is in a holy place, which is about when our heart's there, then we're in the right place for all kinds of things, but especially to be with one another. Perfect, Toby. So, and we often have this thank you slide at the end because so many people help us congregation happen and a service happen. If you can read this from where you are, depending on your eyesight, take a look at who's on that list and see if any of those folks are sitting near you. Because in a moment, we're going to sing thank you, but I invite you to help point out who these people are to the folks who might not know. So be ready to point out any and all of these people in the room. Are you ready? Thank you, 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 thank you. Well done, well done. Thank you to the folks who had a work day here yesterday, cleaning up the buildings and the grounds, and who in fact then went on to work at Juneteenth, some of them, to help. So thank you to the crew who helped support Color Me Human by staffing the Juneteenth celebration. There's a Nisanan project team meeting on Tuesday. This is the group that helps the congregation stay connected and invested in supporting the Nisanan well. A justice team meeting on Wednesday for the larger questions. And as always, the website is a wealth of information. So when you're not sure, check that out. Or in a last resort, check in with the office, Siobhan in the office, who's there 5 days a week now, and much of the day. Yeah, yay for Siobhan. For our closing words, I'm going to invite us to sing the refrain of I Choose This Day. And I'll insert some speaking, but let's sing the refrain once. Now Leah sings it at a pitch that's perfect for a lot of women. And low enough that I can't really hit those low notes. We're going to take it up a bit for the rest of us, but with Toby's help. So I choose this day. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit. I choose this day. I choose this day. I choose this day. I choose this day. I choose this day to feel. I choose this day to feel one with love. I choose this day. Let there be joy in our coming together. I choose this day. Let there be truth in our words. I choose this day. And the songs we sing. I choose this day to feel one with love. I choose this day. Let there be help and healing. I choose this day. In our sorrow and our despair. I choose this day. Let there be joy in our coming together. I choose this day to feel one with love. I choose this day. May it be so this day. I choose this day. Yes, this day. I choose this day. Choose this day. I choose this day to feel one with love. I choose this day to feel one with love. I choose this day to feel one with love. Knowing that you are not alone, take a look around. Take a look at the bowl. You are not alone. Let us offer this community benediction, these good words that we say together so they're in our voice and in our ears from each other. Together, let us carry the flame of peace and love until we meet. Join us for refreshments if you're here in the building, and we'll see you next Sunday for a tapestry of delight where you get to hear from members. May it be a love-filled week for you.